First of all, I would like to thank you all for joining this session. And first of all, I would like to thank Florent Martin, who volunteered to do this. He was supposed to do it in May. Unfortunately, or fortunately, actually, he didn't do it because he was participating on the competition on the same day. And he won the competition, became the Sommelier of France. So for 2021.
Bravo.
Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
I would like to take an opportunity to thank my colleague, Laurent, the Bailly delegate of France, for his contribution to this event. And apparently it took some time to organize it, but finally we have Florent on. And before going on, I would like to hand over to Tal. Tal is my colleague on the Order Mondial Committee, who would introduce Florent in the appropriate way. So Tal, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. Yes, it's this time of the month that we get all together to speak about a wine region or a wine country around the world. I do want to tell you all the time that we have all these webinars are, of course, we are recording them and we put them in our unique YouTube channel. It's OMGD Global in YouTube. So if you look at it, you can see our webinar fully in the YouTube. Also, the presentation that we see each time, we forward them to Paris, and I hope next month you can see them in the OMGD page and download them if you want to learn about each region. So it will be possible to download them and see the actual presentation. Also, we have Instagram and of course Facebook page. Just look for OMGD Global and you can follow us and see all our activities. Just to mention that next month in September, I'm going to do the presentation and it's going to be about Israeli wines. So please join me next month at the end of this month. It's going to be nice, I hope. And now, ladies and gentlemen, may I present my friend and the echanson of France, Florent Martin, the best sommelier in France. He was just been elected as the best sommelier in France. I can tell you he's only 34 years old. He's very young. He is the head, or as in France, they say chef sommelier of the Peninsula in Paris. So if you're coming to Paris, please go and say hello to Florent at the Peninsula. Before that, he was a sommelier at the Four Seasons Georges V in Paris for 11 years. Yeah. So you can understand what a big heritage is gained. And before that, in Monaco, he was 3 years working for Alain Ducasse in these 3 Michelin star restaurants. And before that, he was even here in London at the Claridge Hotel working for Gordon Ramsay. And he was 4 times the finalist of the competition in France. And yes, this year he won and he's the best sommelier in France. So we are very proud in the chaîne to have the best sommelier in our confrérie. So I'm gonna make Florent the host now, so he can start his presentation. And of course, as we do, is a kind of a 50 minutes, maybe an hour kind of presentation, but we're not watching the clock. So if it goes on and people are interested, that's fine. And after that, we're going to have some questions and answer session, and we can even talk about different things after that. So without further ado, le best sommelier in France, Monsieur Florent Martin. Avec le
Oh la 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 la
champagne.
la la la! Thank you. What a nice introduction, Tal. I'm also impressed. It's a really good pleasure to, first of all, to meet you, because it's like a first time for most of you that I can share a moment with you. So as told you, I'm a really passionate person about wine. I love to share. I love to display and give about wine, about gastronomy. That's why I came in Peninsula after 11 years at Four Seasons, because I had the ability to create my own selection of wine, to share my own perspective and vision about wine pairing, and I'm really happy. So, by the way, I'm here since June. And it's a beautiful, beautiful challenge to me, because everything is, as you know, everything is changing now. Hotellerie, restaurant, everything is moving. But the occasion for most of us to bring something new, to share, and find again beautiful moments. So we can do it through a screen. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Tal, which became my master computer to organize that. Thank you,
It's
Mohamed.
a good opportunity to please ask everybody to put their speakers on mute, so we don't have any background noises.
So
sorry.
Let's start. I think it will be the occasion to open a bottle of champagne. First of all, because of my title, and first of all, because of the event. That will be the occasion for me as well to show you how we open a bottle of champagne properly, if I'm not making mistake, and maybe speak about. So this is the champagne of the hotel, Peninsula, Deutz. It's a cuvée which is done from Deutz, Maison Deutz. I open it in front of you. And if you have any question, please ask. After that, we'll drink together.
You need to put the camera a bit down so we can see what you're doing, because actually we see, oh, voilà, comme ça. Merci.
So when I open a bottle of champagne, I always cut properly behind the ring here with my couteau sommelier. Normally you can remove it easily, but it's maybe more precise and beautiful when you cut it like this. When you turn the metal, you can count until 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. Always 6 turns. Not less, not more. You put the bottle down, and the bottle moves, not the cork. Your hand moves like this, and easily, delicately, slowly, the cork will move. If you can hear the nose, quiet. Voila. I check if it's not cork. It's fine. And now we can start our presentation.
Ah, bravo. So actually you hold the cork in one hand and you twist the bottle on the other one.
Yes, I twist the bottle.
You don't twist the cork, the bottle.
Yes, yes. You twist the bottle, because if you twist the cork, you take a risk to leave the bottle with the pressure. Mm-hmm. You can leave the bottle down, that it can fall down because of the pressure. So you keep it in your head, and you move with your hand. You don't move with you don't move the cork. You don't twist the cork. So let's start. The presentation is called Champagne is Magic, the magic of champagne, and I really believe it that drink, that wine is magic. Is magic for so many reasons, but we'll speak about. To me, it's a wine that I serve since a long time, since I'm a student. And I've been always impressed how people can dream about that drink. It's even more than a wine. When I speak sometimes with guests, they don't speak about wine when we speak about champagne. they speak about champagne. It's like it could be another drink than a wine, but it's a wine. It's a fermented grape. It's a fermented grape, and the process is so special that it makes it so unique. We'll speak about it. I'm sure you have so many questions, but I have organized a presentation to share with you with so many points. We could say there are questions. Where do the bubbles come from? What is crémant? What is champagne? What is the difference in between blanc de blanc, blanc de noir? Why there is so much acidity? We'll try to speak about, but why champagne is so magic to me, first of all, because of the geography, because of the location. When I was speaking to Dominique a few minutes ago, she told me there is some champagne in Belgium. Of course, we can do sparkling wine everywhere in the world. But Champagne, first of all, is a department. It's a region located in France, just 1 hour from Paris. And that's why I go really often there. And it's a region. It's actually a location, you know, and it has been recognized historically and throughout the time as a really specific location to make that specific champagne. So it's 34,000 hectares approximately. So it's a big region. If we will compare as a really big appellation in the world like this, we could speak about Porto. We could speak about Madeira or Jerez. It's a really big region for just one name, Champagne. So you have different departments, Marne, Haute-Marne. But if we would explain specifically the difference in that region, I would say there is maybe 3 main sub-regions. First of all, Montagne de Reims. Montagne de Reims is a kind of hill really close to Reims, actually just below and above, until maybe 150 to 200 meters of altitude. So it's not as high, but it's really important because of the soil. And around the city of Reims, which historically has been a city of wine, because vineyard there was present around the city. Now it's changing a little bit because of the construction, because of the building, but historically the city is in the vineyard. And typically from that region, you've got Pinot Noir. In that region of Montagne de Reims, the grape is especially Pinot Noir. In Vallée de la Marne, which is a little bit below, you've got a kind of valley, so among a river, which is called Marne, actually a tributary of Seine from Paris. And among that river, among that valley, you can find especially Pinot Meunier or Pinot Noir wine. If we will continue a little bit to the south, there is Côte des Blancs. Côte des Blancs is really famous for Chardonnay. Mostly chalky place. If you will go to Côte des Blancs, when you look at the vineyard, when you walk on the coast, you can definitely look at the color of the soil, which is white. It's like really impressive to go through of the vine and see how the soil is white. Those regions are the main ones: Montagne de Reims, Vallée de la Marne, et Côte de Blanc. You can have a look at it, but it's not. That's we could say it's not at all. It's not enough. Those ones are really important, but as you know, Champagne became really famous, a great success, and those regions was not enough to produce. So people there, they have decided to create a region a little bit larger. They make a Champagne region a little bit bigger. And if you would carry on around on the north, at the south, there is different river where you could find so many valleys, région de Vitry-le-François, vallée de l'Ardre, vallée du Surmelin, where you could find so many new great winemakers, which makes the champagne a little bit larger, a little bit bigger. In that region, we can do sparkling wine. That sparkling typical wine is called champagne. And champagne, the name champagne is because of the geological name of the soil. You know, I was speaking about the chalk, the white soil. If we will describe it as Latin name, we say Campagna rimensis. This is the geological stage of the soil of Champagne, Campagna rimensis. That's why we speak about Champagne, Campagna, which is the original Latin name. So we do sparkling wine, which is called champagne, but we could produce as well red wine, so still red wine, still rosé wine, and still white wine. They are called Coteaux Champenois. And they produce a really unique wine, which has been so famous in the 18th century, especially thanks to Louis XIV, who was a big fan of it, Rosé de Rissé. It's a still rosé wine, really typical from Rissé village, made with Pinot Noir. Those wines are the wines produced in Champagne. So Champagne is not especially sparkling. Champagne can be Coteaux Champenois, can be as well Rosé de Rissé. Do you have any question about that? No. So why Champagne is so magic? Geography, of course, as I told you, the climate. You know that Champagne is the limit of the wine production in the world, one of the most northern part of the vineyard, of the world vineyard. Temperature of Champagne are really low. That's why during the winter, we have a lot of frost, and sometimes the wine can get a lot of acidity. But that's why Champagne gets so much charm and so much complexity, because of the acidity, because of the chalk, because of the climate. The wine gets a beautiful crispness, a beautiful freshness that you couldn't reproduce in any region of the world, except maybe now UK. We'll see. But Champagne has this really special thing. And the quantity of rain, the quantity of water that you could get among the year is really important too. We always say to get a beautiful grape, you need some sun. It's true. It's true. To get a nice grape, to get a beautiful ripeness, we need some sun. But some of the grape, such as Pinot Blanc, such as Chardonnay, such as Riesling, they don't need especially sun. I mean, only sun. They need as well water. They need to be on a good ripeness with freshness. For example, if you want to create a good Chablis, or if you want to create a good Champagne, you have to get water enough along the year. Because the balance wouldn't be the same, the acidity, the crispness wouldn't be the same if you wouldn't get water enough. So Champagne is good as well because of the water and the low insolation, the low quantity of sun. So those climate, geography, geological reasons are really important, but it's not at all, it's not enough. Historically, Champagne has been really connected to countries, other countries. If there wouldn't be England, UK, there wouldn't be Champagne. English used to be great makers of cider. And historically, Champagne is not a region of sparkling wine. It's a region of still wine. As you know, Dom Pérignon, the monk, which is really famous now. I'm sure you know Moët Chandon, Dom Pérignon. It's a big cuvée, really successful, really famous. And the name of Dom Pérignon is a kind of homage in respect of a of a great guy which has been existing at the 17th century, in the same time of Louis XIV. Actually, he's born the same day, I mean, the same year of Louis XIV, and he's died the same year of Louis XIV. 1638, 1715. And that guy used to be a monk, so in charge of the of making wine in Ouvrier church, Ouvrier Abbey. And he was so passionate about making wine, but making still wine at that time. At the 17th century, until the 17th century, champagne was not sparkling. And Montagne de Reims, Vallée de la Marne, Vin d'Ailly, Ailly is a village, the village of Bollinger. That village was really famous to make Pinot Noir, but still Pinot Noir. And when that guy, Dom Pérignon, start to create sparkling wine, it became really, really successful. At the beginning, Dom Pérignon didn't want to make sparkling wine. It was because of Don Ruinart. Ruinart, it's another big brand, but Ruinart was another monk. That guy was really curious about sparkling wine. And there is a region in France which is really famous and historically recognized as a sparkling maker. It's Limoux. It's in Languedoc, just below Montpellier, close to Marseille or Perpignan. You've got there a vineyard which is called Limoux, Limoux, which is historically the place of sparkling. And Don Ruinart brought Dom Pérignon with him in that vineyard, and he showed to Dom Pérignon what was sparkling. And Dom Pérignon was not convinced at all that it could be interesting to make sparkling champagne. But when he's been to Limoux, he has decided to start. So it's because of that travel in Limoux that Dom Pérignon and Don Ruinart together started to make sparkling wine in Champagne. That's why Champagne is so magic, because it's a kind of genius idea once to create something new, something innovative, something special with something historic. At the beginning, the original grape was called Gouais, Gouais. That grape was so useful to make sparkling, to make still wine. And throughout the time, that grape became like a little bit different. There was a new hybrid, there was new version of Gouais, which has been Pinot Blanc, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay. And all those grapes, they've got the same father, which is Gouais grape. And Dom Pérignon has been so innovative because he understood how to blend those different grapes to create complexity before to make sparkling wine. He was inventing the new process. Sorry? He was inventing the new process of viticulture, actually. Dom Pérignon is not especially the inventor of champagne sparkling. Dom Pérignon is the inventor of high quality.
Está cerca la autopista. Ok. Bueno.
Hey, can everyone move to mute, please, because we can't hear the presentation?
You can ask some question if you like, huh? Of course.
No, but we have some people that Jari, can you hear me? Jari, can you please put yourself on mute, please? Okay, we continue, please.
And yes, as I was saying, Dom Pérignon is not the inventor of sparkling champagne. He's the inventor of high quality process of viticulture. It means picking grapes during the night to get freshness, separate cuvée to make the difference in between what is Chardonnay, what is Pinot Noir, what is the difference in between different grapes or different places. It has been the first to create as well blending wine to give complexity and powerful taste to the wine. And when Don Ruinart came to him, they together create a wine which was as good a good still wine, but with the intention to bring sparkling. And when English started to understand that, they developed the intention. As I told you, English was so famous to make cider, and English people gave to the champagne makers a process to develop sparkling and bubbles into the champagne. It was the same process as well that we would use in Limoux, in Languedoc. And English was so amateur, was so fun and enjoying champagne sparkling that they wanted to develop the market. Thanks to that, Dom Pérignon has been how do you say, developing the production of sparkling. So history is really important of champagne. That's why it's so magic. That's why champagne is so interesting as well. As I told you, the delimitation is really important because the name of Champagne is the name of a department, of a region. And this has been recognized since the 15th century, but the specific date when Champagne became recognized as the Champagne region of sparkling wine was 1907, when Champagne has been really, really protected. So we spoke about the geography, we spoke about the chalk, which is really special, that beautiful soil, really white. We spoke about the history, but we need to speak about the making. How do we do champagne? And why champagne is so elegant as we make it in France, in the region of Champagne. First of all, you cannot pick your grape with machine in Champagne, only manual harvesting. Harvest has to be by hand and immediate pressing. You cannot wait 1 or 2 days after pressing. This is the law. If you don't do it, you are not champagne. As I told you, the weather, the variety of grapes, and the climate makes the grape really acidic. And this acidity combined to the sparkling makes a drink, a wine, which is really refreshing. For example, if we will compare to Franciacorta in Italy, or with Cava, even with Claret de Die in France, it's not so easy to find a wine as fresh as Champagne. For making Champagne, you have to blend. This is a signature. A Champagne is a blend most of the time, even for a vintage. This is a signature of Champagne. It means that in that great region of 35,000 hectares, you can compose like a painting of taste through of the different profiles, thanks to the different profiles of wine. Companies, chefs de cave, makers compose a blend, compose a cuvée, which is a signature of Champagne. This is typical. For making Champagne, we need a second fermentation. So it's going to be a little bit technical, but simple. You know, to make wine, we use grape, and we need to ferment, to create a fermentation. What is fermentation? You have sugar, and yeast make the sugar in alcohol. For champagne, you need to do it twice, because when the wine is fermenting, bubble is appearing. And this is why it's sparkling. Every wine is sparkling. Every wine used to be sparkling. When you do a fermentation, there is some CO2. But in champagne, we put more sugar after the first fermentation to create another fermentation and develop sparklingness. That's why champagne is like this. And that's why champagne is champagne, because it's aged in this beautiful quarrier, in this beautiful chalk cellar, which has been recognized Patrimoine de l'Humanité from UNESCO. Typical from the region, below cellars, below vineyards, you've got this chalk, which will be useful to conserve, to age the bottle along the year. And thanks to that chalk, which is really cold, which keeps humidity, you can develop a beautiful maturation to your bottles until so many years. The minimum to produce is 15 months for a brut and 3 years for a vintage. You cannot commercialize a champagne before that. Degorgement and dosage is a final process. You know, degorgement seems after the second fermentation, there is some sediment in your bottle. Yeast has been dyed, so it became a sediment. After that, you need to make a degorgement. It means you mean to get the cork or the capsule up and leave the sediment outside. After that, you put some sugar, because in function of the expedition, in function of the exportation, champagne makers was really interested about adding sugariness, sweetness. For example, we know that Russian maybe will prefer something more sweet. We know that German will prefer something more dry, or British will prefer something more sweet. So in function of the exportation, champagne makers was adding a touch of sugar just to balance the acidity in function of the expedition. This is called dosage. This is how we make champagne. So there is a classification in function of the dosage. When you look at the label, there is so many things to understand. And one important thing is the dosage. When you look at the label and it's written brut, it seems that the winemaker put it under 12 grams of sugar per liters before the bottling. If you see extra dry, it's 12 to 17 grams of sugar. You know, in function of the dosage, we've got that classifications.
Eso no pesa mucho.
Todo perfecto hasta que el aeropuerto un caos.
Everybody.
No, una conferencia sobre champagne.
Como champas.
I don't know who's hosting this, but the host can mute the participants.
I think it's better, no?
Yeah. By the way, Florent, if you can mute people, if you can.
Yes, yes. That's why I'm trying to do. I think it's okay. Voila.
Yes. Now it's okay.
So, and finally, the bottling is really important too. You know, the cork of champagne is really special. It's not a really usual cork, because we need to contain the pressure of CO2. So the cork is larger and bigger. And if you could check, you know, this base is called juponnage. You know, the shape is getting a little bit larger at the bottom. And if you look a little bit closer, there is some disc at the end. You know, you've got a really initial shape. And if you look at it, there is a different color at the top here, at the end. And there is different stage, different disc in function of the size, of the longer of the shape. You've got 1, 2, or 3 discs to be added. You can understand that if we put more disc, if we put a cork which is longer, that's the intention to keep the champagne longer. Because cork is the condition to leave the champagne brief, but really, really, really slowly. This is what champagne is evolving, still evolving in the bottle, and create complexity of aromas, taste, and flavored because of that cork. Capsule. Capsule is typical to champagne. Actually, this has been created by a champagne maker which is called Jackson, plaque à museler. And most of the people collecting them in France, we call that placo-musophile, a really strange word. A really strange word. So this is how we make champagne. And we spoke about grapes. We need not to precise a little bit more. You know that there is 3 grapes to make champagne. Main grapes, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. Chardonnay is like the king of champagne. When you use Chardonnay, you create elegant, complex, and really soft texture to the champagne. When you use Pinot Noir, which is especially planted in Montagne de Reims, you give more acidity, you give more powerful and power and spiciness to the champagne. Pinot Meunier is like the gentle grape in between Chardonnay and Pinot Noir to bring fruitness, purpleness, and freshness. But this is like big lines, you know, it's not so evident because you can create a beautiful Pinot Meunier today. We know so many makers, they create big and great Pinot Meunier. But that's not enough. Those main grapes are really important, but you can have as well some other grapes such as Pinot Blanc, Arban, Petit Meunier. Those small grapes are really capricious, not easy to harvest, but they are really useful to bring complexity. And now, because of the climate changes, those grapes, which has been forgotten, became a little bit useful because they have got more acidity and they can more balance the wine because of their freshness. Now let's speak about label. Labels are really important. Labels are really important. As I told you, there is classification. And we have to speak about the different classification that you could find of production. We spoke about brut, extra brut, dry, anything. But there is as well a classification in function of the prestige, in function of the quality. Brut will be the basic one. It means a blend of different years, which represent the company's taste, the big name taste. Most of them create a great vintage, something which is the symbol of quality. Vintage. Vintage means you only have 1 year in the bottle. So you only produce it at the best year, not every time, the best vintage. For example, a house such as Salon is like a big name of vintage. They only produce vintage. And sometimes you don't find any production for a year, even for a couple of years. For example, the last vintage of Salon has been, if I'm not mistaken, 2011. Nothing after. And before was 2007. Sometimes you can wait 2, 3, even 4 years without any vintage. Another classification consists to make the difference in between the grape. Blanc de Blanc is from a Chardonnay or a white variety. Blanc de Noir is from a Pinot Noir or a black variety, a red variety. When you create a white champagne, you can create it with with red varieties, with Pinot Noir, because they press the grape really slowly, delicately, with vertical pressure to do not color the champagne. This is how they do Blanc de Noir with Pinot Noir, which has a really black skin, but inside the purple is white. So they press it really slowly to get a really white juice. Blanc de Noir, white from black, white from red. There is a classification as well, which is really interesting in function of prestige and productivity. Maison de Champagne is a big name which has been recognized, such as a company. Maison de Champagne, most of the time, is like a domain. But when you are a good producer, with a lot of quantity, you can be called marque de champagne, grande marque. Grande marque seems that you are a big ambassador of producer. That's why now there is some makers. At the beginning, there was producing champagne there was producing grape, and there was selling their own grape to big companies, to Grand Marque. And since maybe 20 years, there is no makers want to create their own label, their own name, without selling grapes to the big companies. And now you've got a kind of competitivity in between Grand Marque, in between big companies and small makers, which is really attractive. Grand Marque is like the icon, which brings the symbol and the exportation to the region, and petit vigneron, petit producteur, something more exclusive, something unusual. We spoke about sparkling, and as you know, CO2 brings sparkling. But when you serve a champagne, it's really important to choose a good glass. And in function of the glass, you will reveal the freshness and the balance of the sparkling. Me, for example, my favorite glass is the third one. I'm not sure if you can have a look at it, but there is the classic flute, which is the one on the middle. Flute can help you to preserve the bubble and the sparkling. When you drink a champagne thanks to flute, so that one, you feel more the CO2, you feel more the freshness and the sparkliness. When you use a tulip flute, so a little bit less straight, a little bit less round shape, you get, of course, that freshness of the bubble, but you contain it. And me, I like to find a compromise to serve the champagne in between the white wine shape and the flute shape, you know, because when the bubbles are too much, when the bubbles are too powerful, you can damage the structure and you can lose a little bit of texture. I like when the bubbles are into the texture, just to bring a kind of plus which is balanced and into the balance. That's why I prefer, this is my taste, of course, it depends on you, of course, but me, I prefer to serve champagne in a white wine glass or in a flute, which is a little bit more round, a little bit less straight. Temperature are really useful to serve champagne. You wouldn't have the same feeling if you would serve champagne frozen and warm or warm. The perfect temperature for champagne usually is 8 to 10 degrees. But more you get complexity, more you get subtlety in the champagne, you should find a temperature which is a little bit higher. For example, if you choose a great vintage champagne, such as Krug, Dom Pérignon, Tétinger, maybe we will go for 11, 12 degrees to find maybe more nuance, subtlety. When the temperature is too cold, you lose a little bit of complexity and you damage the texture. You know, tasting, it's always a question of texture. There is aromas, there is flavored, but the beauty of a wine, it's as well as the sensuality of the texture. And if you serve it too cold, you lose that beautiful texture. We can decant champagne, we can carafe champagne, especially with a champagne which is too bubbly. It's really useful to carafe it a little bit, just to remove a little bit of bubbles. Champagne pairing, me, I'm a big lover of wine pairing. This is my big passion, you know. I think for a sommelier or an amateur, that's the way to give emotion to the taster, to the gourmet. And especially at La Chaîne des Rôtisseurs, we love to eat, we love to drink. And if we connect the drink and the food together, you can create new tastes, bring emotion. I love to do that. So I show you a small skills, a small task, which has been made from a Perrier-Jouet house. You can have a look in function of the champagne, how you can process to match them, to pair them. Blanc de Blanc, Rosé or vintage. You see? For example, a Blanc de Blanc, usually a really young one, has a taste which is really close to lemon, hazelnut, and Chardonnay gives that special taste, really close to the original flavored grape. If the champagne is evolving a little bit, you can develop so many new tastes. For example, a vintage Blanc de Blanc can evolve with pineapple, exotic fruit. A really nice vintage, really evolved, can bring as well some mushroom, spice, even smokiness to the texture and to the flavor. A brut, which is really useful, really tonic, will be more mineral, more citrusy. So you cannot serve the same food with those different champagne. You have to adapt that in function. The texture can change as well. A Blanc de Noir will be much stronger than a Blanc de Blanc, which is more delicate. For a Blanc de Noir, you can even serve a really fleshy fish, even a meat with a Blanc de Noir. But for a Blanc de Blanc, you will go for something more sophisticated, more elegant, such as a crayfish or a beautiful and delicate carpaccio of fish. Voila, you don't serve the same food in function of the champagne, of course. So I make you a small proposition in function of cuvées and different type of champagne. I wanted to let you know as well about the other sparkling. I think it's a little bit interesting. You know, in France, we produce champagne in Champagne. But as well in France, we had so many problems because sometimes people wanted to produce champagne in Alsace, but you cannot do. You cannot produce champagne in Bordeaux or in Burgundy. So that's why they've decided to create the name Crémant. You can produce Crémant in all of the regions. And if you will compare Crémant to Champagne, Crémant is always a little bit less acidic a little bit less fresh. And of course, big house of champagne, they have the ability to leave the wine age a long time with a lot of complexity, with a lot of different flavors that Crémant cannot do it. There is other technique to make sparkling. I'm sure most of you used to taste Asti or Moscato. Moscato can be sparkling, but it's not the same making. When you do a Moscato, you can only put CO2 without doing a second fermentation. This is another thing as well. But we have to be conscious that a sparkling from a Moscato is not as sophisticated and refined than a champagne. Champagne, the bubble is normally always more fine, more delicate. I'll make you a selection about the big name in Champagne, you know, big houses, big mark. We all know those names. They are really important, but it's really interesting to classify and to identify where they are. Moët & Chandon, for example, is the best seller of champagne in the world. When we think that they can sell per year 32 millions, Veuve Clicquot is the same. So you can imagine how Moët & Chandon is so powerful in the region, and how do they have property and how much they own grapes and the parcels. Voilà, you can compare Moët & Chandon, Veuve Clicquot, Moom. Me, my preference, because I really like to share it, goes for a house such as Tétinger, for Lançon. And I have to tell you really honestly that Moët & Chandon vintage, even if the production is really big, can be really, really good sometimes. It's impressive how a big name like this can sometimes make so beautiful wines. So it's not because you are a small winemaker that you create a great champagne. It's a question of excellence, of quality, choosing grape and blending wine. It's not especially of a question of size. I made you a small list of small houses that you should know, or even that you should taste, that you should discover. There is so many to discover, because as I told you, they don't want to sell the grape to big companies. They want to create their own champagne. And one of the first one used to do it is Jackson. If you remember, at the beginning, I was speaking about capsule. Jackson has been the inventor of capsule. So since a long time, it's a small property which creates their own champagne, a really small house. Ouvrier, for example, one of the great makers of Blanc de Noir, or De la Motte. De la Motte is a second house of Laurent Perrier, a little bit smaller and really attractive. When we speak about new champagne and big names, we have to speak about Celos. Celos now is as famous as Tétinger because his name and his style became really unique. That guy, for example, does a kind of oxidative style of wine. It means like a Jerez or like a Madeira. It means he do a wine, he leave it oxidizing to create a new flavor. When I speak about oxidation, it seems he leaves wine with the air contact, and the air gives oxidation to the wine and develop new flavor. If you do it too much, you make your wine a vinegar. But if you do it properly, you can create new flavors in between the spiciness, the nuttiness, the smokiness. And he made that with sparkling, with champagne. So that's why he's now really famous and really unique. Voila, so many bottles in the world that you could find from champagne. 4 million, so it's a lot. It's really impressive. And I have to say that I'm really, really impressed. And that's why I think it's really magic too, because the wine champagne has been copied, has been an inspiration for so many regions in the world. Now you can make sparkling wine in Spain as Cava, you can make sparkling wine in Italy as Franciacorta or Prosecco, even in UK, you can find so many beautiful sparkling wines. And I think champagne is that beautiful and unique name, which has been an inspiration for all of the world. This is why champagne is magic. You can have a look at the main consumers of champagne, and now we can understand how Tal is happy because he drinks a lot of champagne. Voilà. Vive le vin et vive la chaîne.
Thank you so much, Florent. This is amazing. I think I can say it from all of us. We learn a lot. And I know you're still at work, but we want to give some chance to ask questions.
Yes, please.
So if you still need the presentation, fine. If not, I would love to see everybody. Oh, voilà. Merci.
Out there.
Muhammad, I'm sorry, we cannot hear you.
Just have a look at the
I do not hear Mohammed neither. I do not hear everyone at the moment.
Okay, any questions? Any questions? Yes. Yes, Ved, but you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you very much, Florent. Congratulations on your new title. It's fascinating to listen to you. And I think also this is also to the organizers today. I think we hit the right level of a talk today, and not too difficult to follow at a technical level, and not too much beginner stage either. So thank you very much, Florent, for that. I have a comment and a question for you, and a little bit related. The comment is about the audacity of you to say the northern border of the winemaking regions of the world is at Champagne. I think I put to you that is changing, unfortunately, because of climate change. We've been talking for a couple of decades about the UK, but I put to you it's moving north. It's moving north to northern Germany, to Poland, even into my native country, Denmark. So watch out for we're only talking sparkling wines and dry whites with high acidity, but it's coming. It's coming fast, regrettably, because of climate change. So that's the challenge. My question is a little bit related, because we've been reading about champagne. I remember reading an article in Decanter not so long ago. I forget which champagne house put this forward, but the idea was that because of climate change, champagne has now been struggling for a number of years in reaching the acidity that it traditionally puts on the palate for us in its products, and it will be a different product going forward because of climate change. But there's a trend now, apparently, they say, about substituting bitterness into that, saying we see a different style in champagne going forward in the coming decades of another way, not using acidity to balance the fruit or the sweetness, but rather bitterness or maybe even tannins in that. And I would love to hear your comment on whether you see this trend or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Sven. Thank you, Sven, for your comment. And by the way, I totally agree with you. Champagne has been identified such as the northern part, the extreme northern part of the world vineyard. But you're right, with the climate change, there is so many changes, and many countries now become, really important. Even in France, we look for new places in Brittany, in Normandy, in Picardy, the way to plant new grapes and to adapt that. It's a really difficult time, because some regions such as Bordeaux, Rhône Valley, sometimes they produce wine, they go even 15, 16 degrees of alcohol. It's crazy. We cannot imagine serving those type of wine as so much alcohol, as so alcoholic. So there is some new technique, new reflection to adapt. And one of the most important to me is, and that's why maybe I join you about bitterness, even minerality. The most important thing is it will be to create more vegetal in the vineyard, because when you've got more vegetal, you protect the grape from the sun. For example, at Château Cheval Blanc in Saint-Émilion, from now on, they are starting to plant trees among the vineyard, around it. And thanks to the trees, you get more like an umbrella to the wine. And you create competition in between bush and trees, which give to the grape, even to the bush, to the vine, the ability to go deeply and further down to the soil and get minerality, saltiness, and bitterness to balance the alcohol texture. I think this is the best solution. You can as well choose or select different grapes, maybe less ripe. You know, in Bordeaux, now they try to think about importing Portuguese grape or Spanish grape, but I don't think this is a good option, because you will lose your own style, you will lose your own history if you import new grapes, which is not your typicity, your style. And the way to develop viticulture in a really reasonable way, reintroduce trees, reintroduce rivers, reintroduce really ancient and old-fashioned making, could make the wine and vineyard better and more fresh.
Thank you, Florent. Questions? More questions? Yes, Dominique.
I was, hello, Florent, again.
Again.
And thank you for a very nice presentation, really.
So kind of you, thank you.
And the mentioning of the Crémants, we had a global picture of sparkling wines. That's very fine. You did not speak about natural wines or biodynamics or whatever. I work in an, let's say, rather large wine shop, and it increases more and more. People want wines without sulfates, they want wines biodynamic, they want, I don't know if this is something in the sparkling zone is not so easy, I suppose, or will it remain only bio because of not using pesticides? I don't know. I don't see clear in that.
I mean, the using of pesticides, the using of sulfates became really, really dangerous. And I mean, it's not easy to be official, but we definitely understood, even if we don't speak about health or healthiness, but we know that when you put less chemical, you get better taste. We definitely know that. So this is a really big point. And the vine is more resistant, is more fresh and more intense when you put less chemical, because you give the ability to the plant to resist themselves and to be stronger. So this is really important, and this makes wine better. And as you know, for sparkling, and you're right, I agree with you, Pétillant Naturel has been a creation from biodynamic and bio wine growers in Loire Valley, which is really unique. Pétillant Naturel is like a sparkling wine, which is really similar to Muscat or Clairette de Die, which consists to ferment the grape only once. As I told you, champagne, to create sparkling champagne, to create champagne, you have to ferment, to create two fermentations. The one which consists to make wine, the still one, and the second one, which consists to put more sugar, to add sugar, and brings more bubbles. And this is not so natural. I agree. And if, to be honest with you, do you know what is the region in France where we use and where we consume more sugar? It's Champagne, because there is so much sugar that we use every year to make champagne. So it's not natural, but the process is beautiful. That's why in Loire Valley, some really biodynamic makers, organic makers, they have decided to create Pétillant Naturel, a natural way to make sparkling. Only one fermentation, you leave the grape fermenting, CO2 appears, and you put in the bottle, you bottle it. It's nice, but it's difficult to get the same finesse of bubble for Pétillant Naturel. Even if it's more healthy, I agree, you don't get especially the same finesse and creaminess in the texture.
Mm-hmm. So it's a difficult matter to when people ask me every day, I want more natural wines, I want biodynamics. It's a very difficult part to see that in the bubbles in the Champagne area.
You've got now so many makers that do natural champagne. I can speak you about Leclerc Briand. I can speak you about Fleury. Those makers, they've been one of the first to create biodynamic champagne without sulfate, I mean, minimize sulfate and less chemical. But this is still a small portion of the vineyard, but it's coming. It's coming.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dominique. I would like to ask a quick question. We all have champagne in our house, I hope. And some of us are thinking, how long can I keep champagne? Because some of it, do I need to drink it now? Do I can hold it? So what is the secret of how long can I keep champagne?
Actually, you will be surprised how champagne can evolve, even for really usual brut, a really usual standard cuvée brut. You will be surprised how champagne can evolve because of two reasons. First of all, the acidity. The acidity is a conservateur, gives to the wine the ability to age. The second argument is the CO2. When you want to keep a wine and do not oxidize it, you put some CO2. And champagne gets naturally, because of the process, that quantity of CO2 enough to age. So you'll be surprised how a really usual brut can age. For example, me, I used to forget a bottle in my cellar of a classic brut. After 10 years, the champagne was still good, a little bit less bubbly, but developing new flavor of brioche, butteriness, even mushroom. That can be really, really good. And I'm sure you know the story about Titanic. We found some bottle in the ocean because of the deepness. They were still good even after so many years because there was deepness, of course, but bubble and acidity. And great champagne. I was speaking about Boulanger, Krug. You can even age them 1 century. I used to test some Salon 1945. I was so impressed how bubble, even balance was present, and the wine was so complex. Champagne is one of the best wine to be aged.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's you need to stop mentioning all this because you just make me, drinking champagne from 1945. You make me very envy. So,
can I just ask one last little question? People ask all the time. Now you speak about champagne; they can go along for a long time. There's no hurry, but do you let them? Do you let them the bottle as it is, or do you put them on each other as a sur lot principle?
Yes, I mean the champagne is the same process of every wine. If you want to age them, It's like white, it's like red. You have to always keep the cork
Wet.
yes,
In
yes,
contact with. Okay.
yes. It wouldn't be the same with port or Madeira because, you know, as we know, Madeira or port, they are really alcoholic and the alcohol can damage the cork. But champagne, there is no risk. And if you keep the bottle down in your cellar with good temperature and good humidity, there is no risk to develop and age your champagne.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A question. How are you guys? Sorry for interrupt. My name is Johan from Mexico. Nice to see you, man. Amazing presentation. Yeah, well, I have a very interesting question about Club de Trésors de Champagne, special club. So ultimately, I tasting different producers like Paul Bara, Pierre Gimonet, and about at the bottle, I really figure out about the special organization. So I want to ask you, what is the main difference about the special club champagne? So about this organization, it's like a membership. I already know that, but what do you think about it right now?
So first of all, nice to meet you, Johan. Thank you for your question. About Club Champagne, if you speak about the Club Champagne from Gimonet.
Yeah, it's about a special club is like a special membership. You have like 27 producers inside, but what is the main difference about them? Because they have a specific kind of bottle. They have outside the bottle of the label, you have a special club champagne. Yes. And actually they have like a special organization. So in Mexico, you know, we are still learning a lot. We have a very commercial brands, but this is start to inside the country is more popular. So I don't know what is the main difference. Is the same kind of like a Cuvée Prestige champagne, or is something only for Grand Cru areas, or what is the main difference? What this guy is doing right now?
So in France, we don't have exactly the same thing. I know that there is a kind of groupment of makers to develop exportation and commercialization marketing. I think this is, maybe specific to Mexico or another, or maybe another country. In France, we don't have this official club champagne. We've got some groupment, several makers. They want to be together because they want to be more known and famous if they are together. When you are a small maker and you don't have support enough, you don't have any ability to be known, it's better to work with some other small makers to be known and to be commercialized. For example, when I first of all taste some wine from Frédéric Savard, from Chartogne-Taillé, those small makers, you spoke about Gimonet, which is great too. Those guys, they are not as big as Tétinger or Moët et Chandon. They don't have the same power to market, to commercialize. So they get together a community to develop the commercialization. That's, I think, what they do. It's a way for them to develop a high quality of club, of mark together, and all together commercialize to export, because they couldn't do it on their self.
Well, amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. They tell me now that we cannot use anymore the word champagne. This is only for Russia. We can.
Yes. This has been a so beautiful way to market. I mean, people in France was crazy that Putin or Russia was speaking to create a Russian champagne, even to use the word champagne in Russia. And as we said at the beginning, this is really local. It's a typical region. But I think it's good play. It's good play from Russia because they create like marketing. They get the intention from French and from all over the world, which has been really smart. But they don't produce champagne.
Florent, thank you very much. I would like to ask you a question with regards to that, because
I know now also that there is the méthode champenoise.
Yes.
Does that have any validity with regards to what you're buying as a sparkling wine, or is it just actually a fake name and it's unprotected and everybody can make anything?
No, I think méthode champenoise, it's a good term, and it's the intention to show that you create sparkling wine which is more elegant and thinner. As we told you, and as we spoke together few minutes ago, second fermentation seems méthode champenoise. So you create your still wine, and when your wine is fermented, you add more sugar to create a second fermentation, which brings more bubbles. This is what we call méthode champenoise. And méthode champenoise give you the opportunity to have more thin bubbles and really refine the texture that you couldn't find in a really natural making, such as pétillant naturel, or simply adding CO2. Of course, this seems that the wine is better and maybe thinner.
Florent, maybe I can add a bit. First of all, to say méthode champenoise, it's only the Champagne people and French people are very jealous for the name champagne. You cannot use the same champagne not only for sparkling wine. You cannot use the name champagne for anything else. Even if you want to make perfume or you want to make jeans with the name champagne, you cannot. And you cannot use even the word méthode champenoise if it's not champagne. You use the name méthode traditionnelle or traditional method, and
Yes.
not champenoise, because when you say méthode champenoise, you use the name champagne, and you're not allowed by the new rules to use it.
Well, the fact remains that many of the producers are calling their sparkling cat. They even put it on the bottles.
Yes, they try to benefit and of course you use the term of it. But we need to make the difference in between the term méthode champenoise and méthode traditionnelle. Méthode traditionnelle can be used from all over the world.
Yes. Right.
Laurent, would you serve a méthode champenoise in your hotel?
Not now. I mean, there is so many winemakers to discover in Champagne, so many brands that I'm definitely focused on it. But I have tested so many good things in for example, in Brazil. I really enjoyed Meilleur sparkling, which is a traditional method. In Essex or even in Kent, UK, you can find definitely some beautiful things. But I'm really focused now to let my guests discover really exclusive and unusual makers from Champagne, which is already a nice thing. You know, we're not obliged to serve Tétinger, Moët Chandon every time. We can let them discover some beautiful things that they couldn't find in a supermarket or in their local cellar or in their local cavist.
Yes, actually, I would say that is the function of the sommeliers to give your guests options which they would not be able to find, or to propose alternatives which are out of the regular path. So yes.
Yes, this is so important. When they come here at the hotel, they come to live an experience which is really unusual. And I need with my colleague we need to find surprise, we need to find emotions through the wine or the champagne that they couldn't find anywhere else or at home. So we need to be creative, and I can find it through the winemakers, the small winemakers in Champagne now, but there is we will see. Maybe there will be UK wine. We'll see. But no, I'm focused on that. Maybe in the future we'll work on UK. But there is a question of low alcoholic as well. You know, fermenting is not especially a question of wine. It can be beer, can be sake, can be kombucha, and it's really, really open.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, do we have any more questions? Right. So, Mohammed, can we hear you at all?
No,
It
still not.
is very, very bad.
I will let you close the session then, and I will sort out my sound at later stage.
Thank you so much. Okay. So, first of all, I would like to thank you everybody for joining us. And of course, thank you so much, Florent Martin, for this beautiful, beautiful presentation. Again, we all wine lovers and we all some of us wine professional. And the very time we learn more about this beautiful terroir and beautiful wine region, so special. I want to invite everybody again to join us in YouTube. This webinar will be in a week time on YouTube, and you can find also on Facebook and Instagram. Just follow the hashtag OMGD Global. OMGD Global. This is our hashtag. And please join us again on the 26th of September. Sunday, 26th of September, same times, with me this time when I present to you the beautiful wines of Israel. Thank you everybody for joining us. Vive la chaîne and vive l'ordre mondial.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci Florent.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Au
See you.
revoir.
Pleasure to meet you, everybody.
À la prochaine. Ciao.
À la
Bye-bye.
prochaine.
Voilà,
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Merci. Merci. Au revoir.
Au revoir.